Hi, welcome to Rotary today. We're glad you're here. Thank you for joining us. We hope to be seeing you in person sooner than later.
Yes, thank you everybody for showing up. I know we're all getting anxious to get back face to face, and hopefully this is going to be one of our almost last meetings over Zoom. So again, thank you all for joining us and hope to see everybody very soon.
Welcome, Rotarians and guests. We are Rotarians in Action, and we change lives. We'd like to thank our greeters, Josh Burrell and also Salisa Hopkins. Thank you very much. Our music is this is International Jazz Day, and it is Sweet Georgia Brown, played by the Benny Goodman Orchestra.
Hello, Downtown Rotary. Today we celebrate International Jazz Day. In November 2011, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, otherwise known as UNESCO, officially designated April 30 as International Jazz Day. This day highlights jazz and its diplomatic role of uniting people in all corners of the globe. Each year on April 30, this international art form is recognized for promoting peace, dialogue among cultures, diversity and respect for human rights and human dignity, eradicating discrimination, promoting freedom of expression, fostering gender equality, and reinforcing the role of youth in enacting social change. I hope you enjoy your International Jazz Day video.
Our invocation is Carrie Casey.
Good morning, fellow Rotarians. I miss you, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to offer the invocation for our virtual time together. This prayer is called A Prayer for a Pandemic, and it was written by a woman named Cameron Belm. Please join me in a moment of prayer. May we who are merely inconvenienced remember those whose lives are at stake. May we who have no risk factors remember those most vulnerable. May we who have the luxury of working from home remember those who must choose between preserving their health or making their rent. May we who have the flexibility to care for our children when their schools close remember those who have no options. May we who have to cancel our trips remember those that have no safe place to go. May we who are losing our margin money in the tumult of the economic market remember those who have no margin at all. May we who settle in for a quarantine at home remember those who have no home. As fear grips our country, let us choose love, kindness, compassion, neighborliness. During this time when we cannot physically wrap our arms around each other, let us find ways to be the loving embrace of God to our neighbors. Amen.
So information, wanted to let you know that congratulations to Daryl Blue and Dwayne Monick for the award that you received at the district conference on Saturday. Daryl Blue, the past Vice President R.I. Harold A.R. Anderson Award in recognition for the outstanding long-term service to the Rotary District 5060. And Dwayne Monick, my hero, past Rotary RI President Ed F. Cadman, You Are the Key Award in recognition for your key role in furthering the mission of Rotary, providing outstanding service to others. Congratulations, Daryl, and congratulations, Dwayne. And it's very interesting that Dwayne and Daryl's award both come from the greatest Rotary Club ever, the Yakima Downtown Rotary Club. Please contact your fellow Rotarians if you haven't seen them on the Zoom program. Also, check in on them and see that they're doing okay. Please encourage them to join us. We're having a great time and we're back and moving forward. You know, it seems like every program I'm asking about wine. Well, the Yakima Rotary Centennial wine is here. We have the red and we have the white with the Centennial label. Proceeds will go to our Rotary charities, but please make sure that you are getting your wine. All you have to do is contact Carolyn either at the office or on her cell so that way we can be able to get these orders out. It's really important to be able to get this done and has a beautiful Centennial label. You'll be able to keep that as a keepsake or finish the bottle and enjoy yourself. Past presidents, 100 seconds, Mr. Scott Wagner.
Hey, greetings to my fellow Rotarians. It's an honor and a privilege to be a part of President Eric's 100 years of Yakima Rotary celebration, just as it was 16 years ago to be a president of this club back in 2003, 2004. I must start with a tidbit of fun trivia. If you were to go look up the A.C. Davis High Marching Band from the year 1975, you would find two Rotarians who were maybe not the most talented, but certainly they made a lot of noise. Yours truly was a trumpet player, and yes, President Eric was a drummer. If only we knew what was in store for us in the future as Rotarians. So a bit of my memories as your club president now 16 years ago. Being president of this club gives you a very true perspective of the power of Rotary locally in this community, regionally in our district, and of course worldwide as well. I remember patting myself on the back on numerous occasions for the great job I did recruiting great committee chairs that did all the really important work, providing us with great programs, community service projects at Camp Dudley and the Yakima Greenway, Operation Harvest, literacy work, and numerous grants and to support a host of very important community projects. Our membership committee that year recruited 32 new members, and both the academic and vocational scholarship programs were awarded as well. Regionally, our district governor at the time was our own Don Mullen, and he led the way for us to host the district conference in Yakima, again giving us a very up-close look at just the dynamic work of Rotary outside of our community. On a worldwide perspective, we teamed up with Sunrise and Southwest clubs to host 34 consuls from 32 different countries as they toured this valley. So it's really fun to look back, but possibly now more than ever, the greatest achievements of Rotary likely are in the future. Are you thinking of how Rotary may be a great asset in finding our way back from the challenges that we face today? I know I am, and I hope you are too. So maybe my favorite memory comes from a discussion over dinner during the club president's training event. And it was about the difference between being a member of a Rotary Club and actually being a Rotarian. You know, that four-way test is a great organizational motto, but it is possibly even a better way to actually live your life, both professionally and personally. So I challenge you to ask yourself today, are you just a member of Yakima Rotary, or are you in fact a Rotarian? Hey, Eric, thanks for this invite to have a chance to participate. Stay strong, and I hope we all meet again soon. Take care.
Sergeant of Arms, Dave Hargraves.
Thank you, President Eric, and good afternoon, fellow virtual Rotarians. This whole COVID thing has got me kind of in a grind. So here's my Sergeant at Arms on everything COVID. Now you might be asking yourself, you know, what type of jokes are allowed during a quarantine? Well, obviously the answer is inside jokes, but you also might wonder, what if I don't understand a coronavirus joke? Well, just be patient, be very, very patient. I can tell you that I'm more bored than an Amish electrician. It has been really difficult, but there is an upside. We finally figured out how to slow down time, and I feel like I'm 16 again. I mean, gas is cheap and I'm grounded. I don't know about you, but I'm getting about 2 weeks to the gallon. So if you've got gas in the last 7 days, pay a virtual $1. Now, I mean gas in your car because obviously with the average age of our club, most all of you have had gas in the last 7 days, and it'd be a mass fine. We don't want to have that. In a very unsettling reversal of their teenage years, I see so many people yelling at their parents for going out. So if you've yelled at your parents or you've had to scold them for going out during this pandemic, pay a virtual $1. I was going to ask my mama if the offer to slap me into next year still stood, but evidently she's not with us anymore, so that's not going to happen. I had this moment where, you know, when this pandemic started, I was very, very concerned about the elderly. And then it occurred to me that I am the elderly. So if you're 65 years or older, you're the elderly. So please pay a virtual $1. I find it really curious when I do go out of the house, some of the conversations that I've listened to in the grocery store. There was a woman speaking to another woman, and she said, my husband and I have decided we don't want to have children. She said, and we're going to tell them that tonight at dinner. So it's truth, Bible. A little girl was in a shopping cart, and her mother was you could see, was very afraid from all the time homeschooling and in quarantine. And the little girl asked, "Mommy, am I adopted?" And the mother said, "Oh, no, dear. I just put the ad in the paper yesterday." So it is tough times. And if your kids are getting on you, or you're getting on your kids, pay a virtual dollar. And for all the parents that are homeschooling and finally coming to the realization that maybe it wasn't the teacher, my heart goes out to you. But the question that I have is, asking your child to make a mixed drink, does that count as chemistry? Just asking. But if you are homeschooling, you don't need to pay $1 because, well, frankly, you're going to need it for tuition because the scholarships probably aren't going to be there. And I don't get why you can go to Walmart and Costco and you can get a massage and a hair, but not a haircut. I don't know if you know this, but if you realize that in 8 weeks, 88% of the blondes will disappear off the face of the earth. So if you're a blonde, or if you were a blonde, go ahead and pay $1. And booze. A recent Nielsen study shows that sales of alcohol are up 55% over last year, third week of March. 55%. So I don't know about you, but I've discovered a really good way to not touch your face during the coronavirus. What you do is you just have a glass of wine in each hand, and that way it's really difficult to touch your face. It's all right, you're going to like it. And there's nothing more comforting in trying times like this than a soothing bowl of tomato soup. Even if it's cold, with ice and vodka and a celery stick. I just think it's very soothing. We have joined 4 different wine clubs just so we could keep a constant flow. So if you feel that maybe your alcohol consumption has increased just a bit during this pandemic, pay a virtual $1. These are trying times, and it's funny, people I know are lonely because I've seen so many people that have gotten a puppy or a rescue dog, and I think that's great. My yellow lab, Riley, has looked at me like, now you know why I chew the furniture. It's been 18 days, and I think the dog is a little confused. I can tell that the cat would just as soon have me go back to work. But Riley says with those beautiful brown eyes, why can't you just work from home forever? So if you have a cat, pay $1. Dog owners are exempt because I'm not really fond of cats. And finally, well, this quarantine is very testing on marriages. I think that divorce lawyers are just drooling because they know they're going to have a heyday after all this is over. So all your attorneys, pay $1. My wife, Cindy, yelled at me from upstairs the other day. She said, "Do you ever get that shooting pain across your body like someone's got a voodoo doll and sticking you with it?" A little concerned, I yelled up, "No, why?" She goes, "How about now?" So I'm a little worried. It's been challenging. We've talked a lot about the coronavirus and our health. And I told Cindy, listen, if I get the coronavirus and I die, I want to be cremated. So she made me an appointment for next Tuesday. And it's true, I saw a flying saucer yesterday. It appeared right after the flying cup that she threw at me. So if you think you're getting on your spouse's nerves or vice versa, go ahead and pay $1. Now, many of you know that I'm a big fan of Dr. Seuss, so I'm going to leave you with the COVID version of his book, The Places You'll Go. You will stay on your couch. You will stay in your room. You'll stay in a chair for a meeting on Zoom. You'll stay in the kitchen. You'll stay in the den. You'll stay and you'll stay until they say when. You'll stay in the bathroom, a brief getaway. There are so many places at home you can stay. Be safe, be smart, and thank you all. I want to give a big shout out to the first responders and those on the front line, particularly the healthcare workers. You guys are rock stars. Back to you, President Eric.
This week's program is being introduced by John Cooper.
Last week, we presented an informative program on the needs that have arisen locally as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Today, we discuss 3 groups and institutions working with the community to deal with the crisis. Our first presenter is Dr. Bilski of Pacific Northwest University of Health Sciences here in Yakima. He currently serves as the Provost and Chief Academic Officer at PNWU. Dr. Bilski received a PhD in pharmacology from the University of Arizona in 1996, with a focus on opioids, pain and addiction. His laboratory conducts translational research funded through federal, state, and private grants. He has published over 85 peer-reviewed publications in leading journals and presents nationally and internationally. Dr. Bilski engages diverse audiences, including medical health professional students, K-12 schools, and the public as part of the Education Outreach and Advocacy. He is a 2019 May Day Fellow and received the 2011 American Osteopathic Association Research Mentor of the Year Award and the 2014 Patient Advocacy Award from the American Academy of Pain Medicine.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me speak. I'm going to be talking about the Pacific Northwest University and the responses that we've done with the COVID-19 pandemic. As you can see on the first slide, I've been chosen to include an image of a rainbow and the quote from Jackie Robinson, "The life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives." And I think this is really the true epitome of PNWU and its commitment to the community. As you know, colleges and universities across the United States have had to prepare for this pandemic and the impact, and really have had an upheaval in terms of how we deliver curricula. It was in late February that we were monitoring the pandemic and saw some of the articles coming out of the Chronicle of Higher Education, and needed to start a task force that was going to prepare for this. So really at the end of February, we had put together a place internal team that was going to be looking at the impact and how we were going to accommodate that at various steps of the way. We did ultimately choose to close the campus ahead of schedule. We were watching both the local Yakima County Health District predictions as well as with the state and on the global scale. So that was coinciding approximately with our spring break and gave us about a week to prepare for this. But as you can imagine, a medical school curriculum is complex. It involves all 4 cohorts of medical students, 2 of which are off campus and dispersed across the Pacific Northwest on clinical rotations, along with the approximately 140 students per class in the first 2 years on the Yakima campus. So when we closed the campus, we had to quickly transition to online education. As I mentioned, we produced a number of internal teams. We already had a safety committee that was meeting regularly. We incorporated the COVID-19 into weekly updates. We had groups working on the curriculums for all 4 classes and quickly transitioned. Really, our emphasis was on safety of our employees and of our students. And then the second priority was to maintain that continuity of curricula, because we will need, the next group of residents that emerge in June and July to start to the next phase of their medical education and their care of the community. And you can't really disrupt this because we're going to need this steady stream of not just physicians, but nurses, pharmacists, and other healthcare professionals. The campus community has responded in just an incredible way. We are, as a university, very much centered on educating not just the students, but the community. And we've shifted some of our web resources to helping answer questions that people might have. We've posted a lot of blogs relating to COVID. We've also received word that the state has funded our telehealth training program, which is great news because we're going to rely more and more on telehealth particularly while the pandemic plays out. I've done my part in working with colleagues across the United States with education resources. We've done a lot of webinars and Zoom meetings with various groups. My background is in chronic pain, and this population has immunocompromised patients and patients who are on drugs that might modify the immune system. And so we need to get the word out on how people with these pre-existing conditions are maybe at further risk and what they can do to mitigate that risk. This is a time of the year when the medical students do a lot of volunteer activities. We unfortunately are not going to be able to do our annual fun run. This fun run attracts members from around the Yakima County and go out to support very good causes, other nonprofits. Last year we raised money for the Pegasus Project, which was with equine therapy. So again, unfortunately this year we're not able to do that. And so the students have focused their efforts elsewhere while staying safe. We worked closely with the Yakima Health District to help with volunteers for the drive-through clinic that was at the fairgrounds that helped with some of the testing. And this is just a picture of the medical students being trained with the task trainers, and our simulation center, Lisa Steele, oversaw some of this with showing how to do the nasal swabs correctly before the students gown up and go and help with the administration of the tests and the processing of the samples. And as you can see, some extraordinary measures to protect people with full face masks, ventilators, and other protective equipment. The students also, on their own initiative, started a Yakima versus COVID-19 website and various other social media pages. And this has really taken off. There's a whole host of things that they've done. The Yakima Herald featured them yesterday, or I guess this morning. In a time of uncertainty, medical students respond to the community needs. Importantly, this was also involving our partners, Washington State University and Heritage University, in responding immediately to some of the most pressing needs. This includes our partnership with Yakima Union Gospel Mission and the medical clinic there. Our students are continuing to help with the operations there and providing care for some of the people who are most susceptible and vulnerable. In addition, the medical students have done a variety of other things, including making masks and distributing those. They've also done a drive for other personal protection, asking area businesses that might have surpluses to donate those so that we can get those to healthcare professionals who need that most. And they're also delivering groceries across the city for seniors and others who might be more susceptible with pre-existing conditions. So with that, I think I'll end with just a message of hope. We really appreciate what the community has done for us, and we're going to give back to the community in any way that we can as medical professionals, as scientists, as public health experts, and as volunteers. We're committed to Yakima and the county, along with the Northwest, and our students and our faculty and staff are all willing to help in any way we can. Thank you.
Sharon Miracle is the president and CEO of the Yakima Valley Community Foundation. Prior to this leadership role, Sharon was director of corporate communications and managed corporate social responsibility for Treetop for almost a decade. While working in Wyoming and Colorado for 11 years prior to that, she held senior leadership roles with responsibilities expanding the breadth of services and operations in healthcare systems. As a vice president, she led 3 centers of excellence: Heart, Cancer, and Neuroscience and Spine Institute, in addition to marketing, business development, and patient and employee satisfaction. During her earlier career, Yakima was home for Sharon. She was a development director for Heritage College, the executive director of the Yakima Community Cancer Program, and was even a licensed investment professional for 2 years. Sharon served on the boards of many beloved local organizations, including Junior League, the Yakima Valley Museum, the Yakima Symphony Orchestra, plus she's a member of our club.
Hi, fellow Rotarians and guests. I hope this message finds you well. I'm here today to provide an update about what the Yakima Valley Community Foundation is doing during this time of crisis. And so there's a lot of information, so I just want to briefly put some context around it. Philanthropic foundations like community foundations have changed the way they've operated in the past several years to be much more than just a passive organization bringing funds into community. We actually try to be much more strategic, looking for how we can convene all types of resources to solve community issues. And so what I think you'll see here is really a demonstration of that. And I will say none of this is done alone. It's done in partnership with agencies throughout the entire Yakima Valley. And you'll see numerous examples of those. So I'm going to just share some slides. The first one you'll see is actually a new website that we established on the third day of the crisis. Actually, before March 1st, we set up the YakimaValleyNeeds.org website in partnership with the Yakima Homeless Network, who had a staff member assigned to help us with this, or who volunteered to do that. The website actually collects needs for supplies and volunteers throughout the entire Yakima County. Nonprofits and school districts are able to enter those student and volunteer supply needs, as I said. And then every week we can track that and respond to those. And so community members can actually log on to the site and look and see where they might supply volunteer hours or those types of things. But every single week at each Friday, my staff, along with County Department of Human Services and the Homeless Network, actually go out and shop for all the various supplies, and then we sort and deliver them. And this next slide you'll see is basically to date, as of this morning, there have been, and they measure them in units, or we measure them in units, more than 30,000 units of supplies requested, and we've been able to fill. We purchase those. The county purchases a few as well that they qualify for, but 20,000 units delivered throughout the Yakima Valley. I've got some pictures here that actually show kind of a collaborative effort underway, how the staff gather, sort, and accumulate those things in our conference room. And then thanks to the help of Yakima Greenway Foundation, the local U-Haul place, they are donating trucks and flatbeds to us to actually deliver supplies, but everything from babies and baby formula and diapers to bleach and cleaning supplies, and then where we can, even PPE. So pretty significant. Those go to food banks, homeless shelters, hospice care facilities, any agency that needed, including school districts when they're needing school supplies to meet immediate needs. One of the most important things that's probably come out of this is our county had no way to measure what the volunteer needs were within the community. So the Office of Emergency Management contacted us and said, would it be helpful to look at this website? Can we see where volunteers are needed? And if so, do we need to bring in National Guard to help our food banks? And so that's one of the tools that we use every single week. We meet and discuss with Office of Emergency Management where volunteers are needed. And we actually put together, one of the things that was missing is not a complete comprehensive list of food banks, large and small, across our entire county. So a little surprising early on to learn that, but put together that list, created all the contacts, and then we actually monitor that. Our staff are assigned to actually call and find out what the needs are and how they're doing. You all have probably heard that our food banks are seeing double the capacity. It's a really serious need. It's a large portion of where our funding's going right now. And that number's growing. That number's expected to grow to well more than double by the end of, or excuse me, by summer, as Yakima County unemployment rates are predicted to reach almost 22,000 folks out of work. So that's by summer, that's pretty significant. The next piece we did is actually a Spanish communication piece. Early on, our health district and our federal government did a really nice job of giving lots of stay-at-home information to our English-speaking residents. But as you know, we have a large Latino population and a lot of immigrant and migrant workers in our valley. And none of the campaigns were in Spanish. And so we created a Spanish campaign with the health district and some local partners who you probably know, La Casa Hogar, Nuestra Casa, Latino Community Fund. We purchased media, we actually created spots, helped fund flyers and all types of stuff, and that's been really effective. Most effective, however, is a Facebook campaign. We actually went down to the Union Gospel Mission Clinic, which we help fund, and work closely with those folks. And in the words of their own staff, their Spanish-speaking staff, we did impromptu videos to put together really hard-hitting video messages that really important. Stay at home, here's the symptoms, what does this mean to your community, and please spread that. We put those on Facebook, and they have actually, and this is pretty shocking, what we found is this is an audience you can reach through Facebook. In the first several weeks, they've actually been viewed more than 63,000 times. They were shared almost 19,000 times, and most viewers viewed at least 25% of them all the way through. So pretty substantial. We're reaching that audience. That was so successful, we actually have reached out into Grant, Kittitas, and Klickitat County, and the governor's office has actually recognized this campaign, and we're going to be expanding it further to reach our rural ag industries. You know, folks travel to and from all of those rural counties, and it's really important they have that information to protect them and the rest of the population they interact with. So now back to what people think the foundation is supposed to do, which is raise funds and get them out quickly. And that has been a large portion of what we've done. We very quickly established, just the first couple days, the Yakima Valley Resilience and Response Fund. We stood that fund up, and we put together a partnership with our other funding agencies, which are United Way of Central Washington and the Latino Community Fund. We've had long relationships with those two organizations over the past 4 years. We're part of a building community philanthropy cohort through the Gates Foundation. So we have partnered on many things, not directly in our community, but at conferences and talking about different things. And this crisis created a real opportunity for us to do something very, very positive and together. We created a joint, very short application for nonprofits and agencies to apply to us. We actually put together a community advisory committee with folks from throughout Yakima County and Kittitas County, and representatives from all three organizations. So what you'll see on screen here is a little bit about what the Yakima Valley Resilience and Response Fund is about. It's a flexible source of funding. It supports immediate and longer-term community needs. It works in collection and collaboratively with those organizations I mentioned. It complements the work of public health officials, medical providers, businesses, and governments. We don't want to duplicate efforts. That's why we have some city and county representation on the committee. We meet every single week, and we distribute funds every single week. It is a large lift that we did it first without even knowing what the needs were, but actually went out and worked in community and figured out what needs were there immediately, funded a couple $100,000 the first week, and every week meet and assess those needs based on the applications received. So, ta-da, as of today, our fund at the Yakima Valley Community Foundation has reached over $1 million in contributions. $1,275,000 to be exact. Excuse me, that's not exactly right. $1,02,705, 24 contributors, with gifts ranging from $30,000 to $250,000 from some of the largest foundations across our state. And which is fun partnership. It actually includes a gift of $790 from the PNWU medical students who you just heard about, how great they are in our community. So we feel really privileged and honored that they've contacted us. They also contacted us to volunteer to get to do shopping for elders, which was wonderful. So what we've been able to grant out today, because it's not about sitting on the money, it's about getting it out in the hands of our community where it does the most good. This fund, the money we've brought in, we have actually granted this week, or excuse me, up to this week, $410,250. United Way has contributed $23,000 toward those grants. Latino Community Fund, $5,000. Total grants awarded, $438,250 out. We have purposely managed. We don't know how long the crisis will go on. What we hope is more funds continue to come in. We want to have about 30% of the money that we collect total, not saved, but continue to grow. So we have it towards the end to help stand back up organizations who are really faltering during the crisis who have. Let's see, I have a grant, a chart up on the screen as well that shows you where those funds were granted to, not by agency per se, but in types of areas: food assistance, housing, basic needs, healthcare, that type of thing. This next one was early on. We knew how hard it was going to be to get protective gear for folks, and our healthcare institutions were given top priority. However, not free clinics, not homeless shelters working, not treatment centers. And so we actually had some special contacts in New York. We ordered 200 custom-made masks that actually do meet health grade care. Those have arrived and we've delivered those. We have put together a PPP loan application training program. We actually hosted 31 local nonprofits last Friday to teach them how to get and be successful at these payroll protection loans when the second wave of funding came out. And we actually put together a really interesting feeding program. We received funds in to feed tribal elders of the Yakima Nation. We partnered with some local tribal folks, and we're actually providing gas cards and processing food supplies for folks in their community to go out and volunteer, hunt, fish, gather, and actually provide that food to elders in need in those communities. So pretty interesting approach to that. That's working quite well. And then last but not least, a really big portion of what we've done is we are actually one of the leading agencies that is called upon because of where we're at in rural America and because of our really diverse population. People across the state and even across the nation ask us for advice about how is this impacting your communities. And so we have somebody senior on our staff who works closely in advocacy and policy. And I've got a slide up here that shows that we partnered with Washington nonprofits to actually contact all of our legislative representatives and ensure that nonprofits were included in the small business loan protection pieces. We do frontline kind of nonprofit advocacy, if you will, because those organizations are the ones who fill the gaps when big business can't or the government doesn't. So that's, we're working really hard to do those types of things. Lots more will be done, some more pieces on the horizon. I talked about the communications campaign in Spanish. We have applied for grant funding with the with the Yakima Health District, and we're going to undertake a guerrilla marketing campaign to reach the 4,500 migrant workers who will be arriving in our community soon, that their primary language is Spanish or Mixteco. And we want to do a really grassroots piece where they get information about how to protect themselves and a campaign that will support our local farmers in helping protect their workforces as they are here in our community and as they travel throughout other communities. So that's one of the things that's really next and we're focused on. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Our final speaker today is Kelly Gasling, who is owner and president of SPD&G, a full-service marketing and advertising agency serving the Yakima Valley for more than 80 years. Kelly and her husband, Brad, have 2 children, Brady, who's 15, and Cody, who's 12, plus 1 dog named Cookie. She has been a member of our club for 4 years, and since joining has jumped in to help the organization in a number of ways. She recently co-chaired our last very successful auction, is the current chair of the Meals Program Pay It Forward during COVID-19, and will join our club board this July.
All right. So thank you so much for that introduction, John. I am here today to talk to you about all the wonderful things that Rotary has done during this COVID-19 crisis. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a grant request that we received from the Yakima Union Gospel Mission. And it was for purchase of PPE equipment. And in record time, we have got our allocation and review committee that submitted it to the board for $5,000, and we have approved that. So kudos to the Rotarians that are doing Zoom meetings and phone calls to make all this stuff happen, because that $5,000 is definitely going to a great use for PPE equipment for the Yakima Union Gospel Mission. The other thing that most of you guys are aware of, that we have been doing this meals program that is a pay it forward type of deal, where we weren't able to get together for 2 of the last weeks of March. And so all of you wonderful Rotarians graciously donated your meals that we would have eaten together to the fund that I am calling it the Pay It Forward initiative. And so we spent that money and we sent it to these wonderful associations like the Catholic Charities, Yakima Neighborhood Health, Rod's House, and also the Triumph Treatment Parent Child Assistance Program. So we have fed over 170 people with this, and we've also managed to donate, or I should say, partner up with these restaurants like Powerhouse Grill, Gasparetti's, Easy Tiger, and Provisions. And we hope to continue to do that if we aren't meeting together in May. And you might see an email about that. But we were able to feed 170 people with this, and restaurants like Powerhouse Grill are continuing to get money from Catholic Charities because they love the idea so much. They continue to do it every week. So thank you to all of the Rotarians that stepped forward and donated their lunchtime meals. And the next thing that I am here to talk to you about is the Rotary District grants. We have applied for those, and it's a matching grant, and we are choosing 2 organizations, and one of them is the Memorial Foundation and the Yakima Rotary Food Bank. The grant was approved, and so that matching that we do for the Rotary District grant is at $1,500, and Memorial is going to receive 1,000 of that for them, and 1,000 actually goes to the Rotary Food Bank to purchase food, which you guys all know is very well needed. And that's my segue to talk about the Food Bank Challenge. So we have 8 Rotary food banks that are in desperate need of food. And we have 2 wonderful anonymous members that basically threw out a challenge. And that challenge was to put in whatever you possibly could to match their $10,000. So drum roll, please. I would like to announce that at this point, we have raised $50,700. And that's in record time. And as of this morning, we have a big, huge thanks to Baker Boyer Bank, because they were able to exceed that and get us to that 50,000. And we also had a non-Rotarian be a part of that matching grant. So it's not just us Rotarians, it's all these people in Yakima that are very giving and willing to step forward with people that are in need. So thank you all very much.
Question for Sharon or for Ed. One of the, kind of the thing that both of you spoke to is the kind of the, I don't know if the good side of this is it's pushed some wonderful collaborations and some things that kind of you've wanted to do, but there hasn't been the pressure to do it or the need to do it right away. Do you see that this will, some of them, of course, are specific to this particular crisis, but do you see some of these agencies might ultimately either merge or become much more closely aligned rather than having separate missions and whatnot? I mean, we have so many, you talked about how many agencies there are, and with all the pressures and whatnot that are on everybody right now, do you think that this will become long lasting? I guess is what I'm trying to say in my convoluted fashion, as you know. So that's either Sharon or Ed.
You want to go first, Sharon?
Sure. I think it'll be long lasting. This is the first time, and you can see it across our state and our nation even, but really strongly across the state. I'm on a funders call every single Friday with funders throughout the entire region, and we usually have members of the government, Washington state government, on the call with us, just trying to monitor the situation and learn what's new and what next needs to be supported. But the partnership that has happened between public and private is amazing. So we work really closely with Yakima County right now. That's not something we probably would have done previously, but it makes perfect sense. And it's been really interesting to have these new relationships. We share information. Why wouldn't we continue to coordinate where we invest our resources? And as an example, the governor's office is actually getting ready to put together a statewide map that shows where federal and state funds are going for relief. And what we hope happen is that then we can see where philanthropy, other funders need to fill in gaps or can fill in gaps instead of leaving out big holes. And there are big holes right now. That's really exciting. And then you think about nonprofits. We've already seen nonprofits collaborate on in an unbelievable way. It's not about competition right now. It's trying to support each other. So through thick and thin, some have been had really generous donations brought to them. and someone else will be out of supplies, and we can be a conduit and have been a conduit. We'll actually pick those supplies up and deliver them elsewhere. People have not even blinked at that. So that's wonderful. It's not about hoarding. And for us, it's not even about hoarding the recognition or whatever. We are way better off collectively together. And each one of the funding organizations in our community, United Way and Latino Community Fund, they fundraise different from us, and each valuable and bringing together pieces. They also have different contacts in the community. So it's really great for how do we get that input and know where it's needed. So I think it's going to have lasting benefit, lasting positive benefit.
Thank you.
I would say, it is going to have profound effects, and we're not sure how it's all going to play out. We're fortunate. We believe in partnerships and collaboration, whether it's with other universities and colleges in the area, or if it has, these partnerships with Union Gospel Mission or with, the Yakima Health District. I think, I'm looking at the positives in that we will have to do more in our medical education on public health and preparing, future physicians for, potentially a prolonged pandemic and or other threats that impact large swaths of the population. So we'll continue to look at that. We're looking at use of technology, and telehealth is one extension of that. How do we better prepare our students to engage with telehealth when necessary, particularly for rural and underserved populations? But the effects are going to be profound with fundraising. If you're a nonprofit, if you're a college or university, some of your traditional revenue streams have been upended, particularly if you have dorms and undergraduate classes. We're fortunate that we're focused on graduate medical and health education. But we see the impacts on just trying to interview potential employees that would be coming on board. We've had to shift to Zoom, and it's not the same as an in-person type interview, and be able to show off your campus and work through that. And for the for-profit sector, we're worried that we need to bring things back to some normalcy and start to see the economy revive itself. That's prolonged depression that's going to impact all of us, and so working together across these boundaries and disciplines is essential.
Thank you. I have another one if no one else does. And this is, I'm assuming right now that obviously the pressure is on health and human services and social services. Do you see anything, since you know where I'm coming from, in arts and culture? Have you had any feeling, Sharon, or come across any of those kind of effects?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the biggest sector that was hit from job loss is actually arts, culture, and entertainment. More than a 90% job loss immediately. And that staying shut down, it's probably going to be one of the last things that comes back, just because it usually requires audiences, and it's difficult to deliver a concert to enough people in charge for it through some other means. So we're seeing some really creative pieces, but that's one that's been hit really hard. And so fortunately, Washington State Humanities and the National Endowment for Arts have both put up some pretty significant funds. We have resources posted on our website. We actually send out communications frequently to the folks in our community that actually are involved in that sector or those sectors, and hope that they're taking advantage of those. We can actually help do some grant writing if needed, and also hope that they got the PPP stuff in place. I think that will help some of them survive that, but it's, people need art, they need culture. And one of the things that you're going to see, I think, as this huge pent up demand, once we get back to a little bit of normalcy, is people want those things to have a sense of creative release in their life and, something beautiful. So, and I really encourage, that's one of the places, if you've been a supporter of the arts and culture, continue to be a strong supporter of those entities.
I'm a scientist, and I couldn't agree more. The arts and the humanities are essential to what it means to be human, and we're going to need those in terms of healing and going forward, and also fostering creativity. And we just upped our sponsorship for the town hall and some of the other groups that we support. And I think anybody who has the means, if they can continue to be generous to help support these various nonprofits, it's going to be essential.
So one of the things interesting is that after crisis, even a personal crisis, that creativity is something that happens. It's almost like it's pent up. And most communities actually have an artistic or cultural expression after a crisis. You can look at it through, hundreds of thousands of years, that you'll see this really huge outburst and outpouring of beautiful artwork that pulls communities together. I completely anticipate that Yakima will respond like that, like it has many, many times in the past. It'll be that. So there's a really positive silver lining, I think.
I do have a question.
Yes.
So with our Pay It Forward project, what have you and the team found have been some of the most difficult challenges you've had to face with the project?
I think the biggest thing is keeping the meals warm. So a lot of the restaurants that we have partnered up with have had to modify their dishes because we needed to go from point A to point B, because a lot of these meals are being delivered to people in, whether it's remote areas or it's not just one location, it's several different locations. So that's probably been the biggest hurdle.
Kelly, I have a question for you.
Yes.
How are you selecting the recipients of those meals?
So we were lucky enough to have a few people step forward within our Rotary group that says, hey, we want to be a part of this committee. Anyone that basically reads their email that wanted to be a part of it sent their name forward, and that committee said, hey, we know that of these organizations that need help or that can fulfill these certain requirements. Because obviously for us, we want it to be a nonprofit. We want it to be someone that can accept meals. We have had a few nonprofits that actually have said no because they aren't allowing any donations to come in. So we have had a few of those types of situations, but to be able to help 170 people, and in the cases of Catholic Charities, take it upon themselves to continue to do that, I think is an awesome thing for especially those seniors that can't leave their home and are sheltering in place. And, this is a great way to give back.
So Kelly, have you heard from any of the receivers of the meals yet?
Yes, we've actually, because of Catholic Charities, we received notice. Brad actually got a call from them to talk about the fact that they continue to go to Powerhouse Grill every week to do the same thing because it was so well received. I believe Carolyn has received some thank you notes already as well from some of the nonprofits that have gotten them. Some of the meals actually went out to Camp Hope through Yakima Neighborhood Health, and is people that are in dire need of a meal and are very thankful for it.
So as a follow-up of that question, if this was to continue, we'll just say, just for example, through the month of May, do you have a lot of lists on your list to be able to take care of, or are you soliciting ideas from other Rotarians to be able to come up with some places that would be able to benefit from the need?
We would love to have more people. We do have one that's Sunrise Outreach is very welcoming and willing to deliver meals. That's part of the hurdle, if you will, is that they need to have volunteers that deliver some of those meals if they are in several different locations. And so we welcome any other nonprofits that you think that might be in need.
How did you come up with this idea? What brainstorm did you come up with to be able to do this as a new board member and relatively new to Rotary? What caused you to think about doing something like this?
Well, it actually was because of a Rotary board meeting that I was listening to and talking about how the last 2 weeks of March we wouldn't be able to get together. And I know that the restaurants in our area are in financial straits, if you will, and a lot of them, and people are, taking out and picking up and picking things up at the curb, which is awesome. But if you can do that in big quantities and then also give back to some of the nonprofits, because we do have, you know, like with the food banks, you have a bigger need now that people that are unemployed, or you just have that bigger strain and people aren't as willing to give back because they have themselves have lost their jobs. So it just became a, hey, how can we pay it forward from those meals that we pay, you know, every Thursday to have? You know, it was money that we already kind of, you know, docked away. And so why not let it go to a good thing?
Great.
Please share your YouTube, Facebook with friends and relatives and prospective Rotarians. You know, we really want to thank you guys for this program that we had today. It's really fitting, letting everybody know what is happening in our Yakima Valley. Remember, we are a big club in a small town with a big heart, doing big things in Yakima and around the world. And this program shows you what Rotary or Rotarians in Action are able to do. Thank you very much.